Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's June 8th, 2017, and we are underway at 7 p.m. Before we get started on our agenda, if you would, if you have a cell phone or other electronic communication device, if you would, please turn it to off, silent, or vibrate. We would certainly appreciate it. And we'll start the agenda tonight first with our invocation. Tonight, Councilmember Blue will handle the invocation, and then we'll have the pledge to the American and Texas flag. So if you would please stand for the invocation and the pledges.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we are thankful for your presence as we contemplate issues that will shape the future of our community. We are thankful for our freedoms and for our rights, and for the opportunity to participate in our government in meetings such as this. We ask that you protect our police, firefighters, and all of our public servants as they work daily to make our community better for all of us. We also thank you for the pleasant weather we have had. We ask you that you provide guidance to our elected officials at all levels, that they keep the citizens first in every decision they make. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up on our agenda, we have a public hearing, and we're going to start this public hearing at 7:02. This public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on a request by Helotes Town Center, LP, for approval of a specific City Council approved use permit for a restaurant with drive-through on property zoned General Business District B3, located at 9708 Business Parkway, Helotes, Texas 78023, more particularly described as Bexar County Appraisal District property ID number 1189831. Grace, do we have anyone sign up? No one signed up to speak, so we will close this public hearing, and it is still 7:02. Next up, we have our open session, citizens to be heard. Anybody? No one signed up to speak at our open session, citizens to be heard, so we will move on. The next item on the agenda is actually the consent agenda. For those of you that don't know, a consent agenda in this type of meeting is an item that's intended to have several items approved together. Basically, they're determined routine by myself and the staff, and they're intended to be approved with just one motion and one second. However, the council can ask questions. If a question can be answered fairly briefly, we'll address that question. Otherwise, they can request that an item be pulled for full discussion as part of the individual item. So tonight, the consent agenda is items 4 through 10. Are there any questions on items 4 through 10 or a request to pull an item 4 through 10? You have a question?
It's 5 through 10. Or is it 4? Oh, it is 4.
It is 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 through 10.
Okay, sorry.
I have a comment about
Yes.
7, the appraisal district budget for 2018. My comment is I don't know if anyone actually read through this, but I was kind of taken aback by, it says the largest increase in the 2018 budget includes a $700,000 increase to the district's general reserve fund to use as a litigation contingency, a $400,000 increase to the legal services in anticipation of an increase in arbitration expenses, and $87,440 in total ARB expenses, with the amplified amount of taxpayers coming to the district to protest. Our security has also increased by $30,000. They want to add a paralegal database, et cetera, an appraisal to handle this increased activity. So my comment is, and I'm not sure if we can do anything about it, but instead of giving them $700,000 for all of this, why don't they just pay the taxpayers, let the taxpayers have their lower taxes that they deserve? I just can't believe that they're paying somebody to do this, $700,000. Anyway, I just think it's wrong. So, there you go.
Do you want us to include a comment on what we send back to them on this
That would be nice.
pertaining to that?
Yes.
Okay, we will include that.
Mayor, if I may? I mean, the other thing that council could do is to not approve this portion of the consent, and which would mean we would have to bring back a resolution to disapprove the Bear County Appraisal District budget for 2018.
The whole budget?
Yep.
Well, that's an option. You want to consider
I mean,
that,
if
Cynthia?
we disapprove it, what does that do? It's going to pass
Nothing.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm going to vote against it, so. I mean, I think then that we have to pull it then to do that
Yes.
separately? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think that it really just torques me that they're.
okay, so we'll pull item 7
Yeah,
and address it with a formal vote by itself. So that will leave then consent agenda items 4 through 6 and 8 through 10. And I would like to add in number 9, at the time we came out with the agenda, we had not heard from Frank Thompson, who is an alternate on the Board of Adjustment, so I would like to include, we have heard from him now that he would like to be reappointed. We were concerned about his health. Till we heard from him, we were going to wait. But if we could also, in this, include Frank Thompson, just for your knowledge, and I don't believe that would require us pulling that. We'll just add that in, and you're aware of that then on the vote.
which one, 8 or 9?
That'll be number 9.
Number 9.
He's an alternate on the Board of Adjustment,
Oh, okay,
and that'll keep us from having to bring him back as a separate item on a future agenda.
okay.
So just know that when you're voting for consent agenda item 9, we are including Frank Thompson as an alternate, and that's a reappointment. Okay, so again, we're looking at items 4 through 6 and 8 through 10. So if there are no other questions or requests to pull an item, then I would ask for a motion and a second to approve items 4 through 6 and 8 through 10 as consent.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda items 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Fredericks, a second from Villanueva. And again, this is consent agenda items 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10, 7 having been pulled. Okay, no further questions. All in favor of consent agenda items 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10 are approved. That takes us down to individual items for consideration. And since we pulled 7, we'll move 7 down here. And we'll have a discussion and action on approving or disapproving the budget or approving it with a notation as brought forth by Councilmember Massey, however you guys want to handle it. So we'll entertain a motion and a second to discuss and take action.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 7 as written.
We have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Buys. And again, this is discussion and action on item number 7, approval of the proposed Bear Appraisal District 2018 annual budget. So Cynthia, it's your motion.
I'm looking at the numbers here. The increase to the legal services is $400,000. The arbitration expenses is $87,000. So it's not the total amount of the $700,000. And then there's the $30,000. So I'm willing to let them have what they had last year, but not the additional money, I guess is what I'm saying. But it says 700,000 increase. So I guess every year they add a little bit to this fund, but this year they're adding a lot more because of all of this. me see. I'm not sure how to
Well,
word
the
this.
simplest way would be, as Rick mentioned, we would just disapprove the budget based upon that line item, and we can handle that in a resolution, as Rick said, and just send that to him
Okay,
instead of the card.
that's a good idea. I like that.
Okay? Anything else? Bert?
Okay, is there a timeline on when we need to send in our approval or disapproval?
I'm not sure that's what I was looking for here. I think we'd still be within it 2 weeks from now.
In other words, do we have time to do the resolution?
Yes. I'm right on that, Rick, right?
Yes.
Yes. Because
It's on the cover page, the cover letter.
yeah, it's
for
not going out
appraisal.
till December of this year, so another 2 weeks gives us plenty of time.
Well, actually, it states in bold letters on that first page that please note that a resolution is necessary only if your governing body disapproves the budget.
Right,
So
and
we
that's
need-
what
So
we're,
we need to do it.
that's what we're talking about doing.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Ed, anything?
Nothing.
Alex?
No.
Paul?
No, sir.
Okay, so a yes vote would be to approve the budget as submitted. A no vote would be to disapprove the budget and then have a resolution brought forth at the next meeting.
27.
I tell you what, I think what we probably should do is postpone this rather than take a vote, because a vote to disapprove will preclude us from bringing a resolution back, I believe. So if we postpone this with direction for staff to bring a resolution for the next meeting, then that would make it a little cleaner. That
Okay.
way we wouldn't have a yes or no vote. So if we could amend your motion rather than discuss and take action on it, let's just say postpone this until our next meeting, and then we'll bring a resolution back to you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move to postpone this item until the next meeting so we can have a resolution to sign.
Okay? Bert?
That's fine.
Okay. Any other comments, any objections? Okay, all in favor of postponing this and us bringing a resolution back to you at the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. So that'll come back to us on the next meeting as unfinished business. Okay, then that'll move us on to item 11, which is discussion and action on a request by Helotes Town Center LP for approval of a specific city council approval use permit for restaurant with drive-through on property zone General Business District B3. If we can have a motion and a second, please.
Mayor, I make a motion we discuss, take action on 11.
We have a motion from Bice. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Villanueva. Bert, it's your motion.
Okay. I agree with P and Z's unanimous approval of this agenda item. That's all I have.
Ed?
I agree with it as well. I attended the P and Z meeting. I don't see any problem with it whatsoever, the way it was presented. I'm in favor of it.
Alex?
I concur as well. I think they did a good job of discussing it, and I completely agree.
Cynthia?
I'm okay with it.
Paul?
Same, I'm fine with it.
Okay. No further discussion being required, then we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 12.
Mr. Mayor, I move to discuss and take action on item number 12 as written.
We have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Fredericks. Okay, Cynthia, it's your motion. And did you get the explanation from Rick? Gave a little extra information on that, plus you should have the P and Z's comments on it.
Yeah, I do have the P and Z's comments. Apparently, they weren't so much, they disapproved the request, not necessarily based on the size, but the color. And I have to say that when I saw the color, I immediately was taken aback. It really doesn't go with the color scheme in Old Town, and I think it stands out a little too much. So I agree with the recommendation from Planning and Zoning.
But you're okay on the size?
The size is fine with me.
Okay. Paul?
I thought the size was a little too big for that building, and I thought that the color was quite obtrusive and not very pleasant to the eye, so I'm not, I agree with P and Z on the color. I don't like this color scheme. I thought it was a little too big, but I'm willing to work with that, but I don't like the color either.
Yeah, the way I understood it, the sign's about the same size as the Marketplace sign that was on there before. Ed, anything?
I agree with the size of the sign and maybe the color, maybe it could be changed, a little muted, more muted.
Like a natural
Yeah.
tone,
Yeah.
tan or whatever,
Yeah.
cream. Alex?
I was at Planning and Zoning, they had a lot of discussion on it. There was some discussion of the size. The only thing I think was that they felt that it might be the same size as the sign that was there. I drove by it, and there isn't a sign up there right now. There's just some boards up there to hold whatever eventually replaces it. What I can say from what I saw in the past, that the wording on the previous sign was a lot smaller than this one, even if the outline of the size is the same. So it kind of gives the impression that it's a bigger sign than before, because there's more text than there was before. And I think that may be why they were saying the size, although it is much bigger than any other in Old Town. And if it weren't under the creative sign review, it would have been restricted to about half this size if it were a wall sign. So I'm a little worried, I guess, as Councilmember Frederick says about the size. The color clearly needs to be muted, though. And I think our design standards call it garish. So that would be the word I think we need to use. Thank you.
Okay. Bert?
Is there anybody here from the business?
Anyone here from the business?
They weren't at Planning and Zoning either.
Okay.
Okay. I was
Okay.
just going to ask a couple of questions, but other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay, since the color seems to bother you guys, one option would be, in my mind, go ahead and postpone this also and have them resubmit with a new color. And then, I don't know that it would have to go back to P and Z with a new color, but it could certainly come back to you guys. Either that, or you just have to say, go with a neutral color, but then you wouldn't have a chance to see it before it went up. So it's really your call, whether you want to go ahead and amend your motion and turn it into a postponement.
Well, I wanted to kind of address the issue of the size. It bothered both councilmen here.
Okay.
Especially Alex is right, the words are quite large, and they are much larger than all the other signs that are there, so, and it's because the sign is very large. It seems like it actually fits, though, on that particular little jet, the thing that goes up. I think if it was like a light rust color, something much lighter, that it wouldn't be so obtrusive. So the size, again, doesn't bother me as much. But I think a lot of it has to do with the color. The color is
Yeah.
just very, so my suggestion then would be, we can postpone it and have them bring it back. I'd like to see the new color. I don't want them to just throw a color up there.
Would also need to address the size. If you guys are concerned about the size, then we'd need to give staff direction to go ahead and let these folks know to make the sign a little smaller, or leave it the size that it is, just change the color.
Well, if it's the same size as the previous sign, isn't it like grandfathered in? No?
This particular sign would not be grandfathered in.
Okay, so,
Anytime you change the sign, it does away with the grandfather. That's correct, right, Rick? Yeah.
Yeah, they changed the business.
Are we for sure that this sign is the same size as the sign that was previously up?
No,
We're not sure.
I didn't do any research on it.
Okay.
All I'm being told is that the property owner is saying it's roughly the same size, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I didn't pull the
Yeah,
marketplace.
we didn't measure the
Okay.
other sign. Anyway, if you want to change this to a postponement, and we'll do a little more research on the size of the previous sign and have them resubmit a new color for approval. Want to do that?
I'll agree to that.
Okay.
Just, I guess, one other question. Will they have to resubmit for another variance and pay another fee? I mean,
No, you're
No, we'll just tell them to come
postponing
back
this.
with a new color.
but if we denied it, they would have to.
Yes.
Okay.
You okay with postponing?
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever's easiest for them. I didn't have to go through that process.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to go ahead and postpone this item with the direction to the applicant to come in. We'll verify the size of the previous sign and then come in with a new color submittal and maybe new lettering to be more proportional. So that's the direction we'll give the applicant, and then we'll come back. So all in favor of postponing until the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, this one is postponed then. Item 13 is discussion and action on a request by variance from Visa Wash, Inc., DBA The Wash Tub, for approval of signage. So if we can have a motion and a second, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we discuss and take action on item 13 as written.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was that you, Ed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we have a motion from Fredericks, a second from Villanueva. So Paul, it's your motion.
I'm good. I like the scheme. I didn't see any issues with it. So I'm fine, and I think P and Z was okay with it also.
Okay. Ed?
No discussion, I concur, though. That's
Alex?
No discussion, thank you.
Bert? Cynthia?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Assuming then no further discussion is required, so all in favor of approving this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And we received an email from the applicant at Pulte Homes to pull this item, number 14, from the agenda tonight. So we're going to pull the item on their request, and they'll bring it back to you at a later date. Okay, number 15, discussion and action on an ordinance to amend the Municipal Code of Ordinance to Chapter 38, Fire Prevention and Protection. If we can have a motion and a second, please.
Mayor, I make a motion we discuss, take action on 15.
I have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Fredericks. Okay, Bert. And again, Rick had an email to you guys with a little more explanation on this. And I see the fire chief is here. If you have any questions, we'll holler at you if they got any questions. Walt? Bert?
Okay, where's the email?
It should be on what you got. It's sideways. It's landscape.
Okay, hold on a second.
Plus you got one. Rick.
Oh, here it is.
Is that one?
Okay, my question is, did the HOA take a vote on approving this, or was it just the officers wanting to do this?
It was the board.
Just the board? Is that proper? Can they do that? I mean, just the board say, hey, I want to do this without a vote of the residents?
That's why you elect a board.
That's.
Yeah, but
that's-
still, I mean, with something like this, wouldn't you want to bring it in front of the
We don't know that they didn't.
Okay.
Chief, do you know if they did or not? Go ahead and come on up. Do you know if the Board of Directors of the Cedar Springs HOA took this to their membership before they voted? Were you in on any meetings where
I was
the
not at the
citizens
meeting,
were
sir,
there?
but it did go to their full meeting. I don't know if they took a at-large vote from all the members of the homeowners association.
And Mayor,
I did receive one call today from a citizen over there who was concerned because he said he was not aware of this until he heard about it, and he was upset that the board made the decision without the citizens being notified, but I don't know that,
Mayor,
yeah.
I do know that the HOA president, Rhonda Howarden, is in the audience.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Sure, if you would come up and step in the microphone, tell us who you are, and that you do represent the board of the HOA.
Rhonda
over there.
Howerton, I'm the HOA president of Cedar Springs, and this is my third term. It was brought to the citizens. It was a year-long process. It encompassed about 6 meetings that were announced publicly, website, signage, everything. And we sent a mail out to every homeowner, 4 months in advance to alert them with what you're seeing there, as these are the plans, please attend the meeting, that type of thing. We had more support than we had opposition. And we consulted our legal staff as well of, should we have a vote of the homeowner, should we not? And they said it was the board's job to make safety decisions, and the history of Cedar Springs voting on anything is so poor that it couldn't be left to that. It needed to be decided by the board members.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you very much. Okay, the fire chief seems to think you approved this, right, sir?
So you said you had 6 meetings plus at least 1 mail out?
6 meetings with the homeowners,
Yeah.
and 1 mail out, and multiple meetings with the fire chief and the fire marshal.
Okay, and you had more of your citizens living there that were supportive of it rather than opposed? Okay.
Okay. And you approve of this?
Yes, sir. We did make it very well known that to the board, and it was also, I believe she can speak for this, explained to the members of the Cedar Springs neighborhood that we were not mandating this. I was not mandating this, but we do support it. But we needed to change the verbiage, which is before you tonight, in order for that to be enforceable.
Okay, and my next question is, I think I know the answer to this, but who's paying for this?
It's in the ordinance that the HOA does.
Cedar Springs HOA is paying for it?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, Paul, any questions?
I guess the only question I had is, are we just going to paint the curbs, or are we going to put fire lane painted on the street? You're just going to paint the curbs red?
Actually, it'll be them.
If I could, the ordinance that's before you would need to take action on that for that to be enforceable. But with the change in this ordinance that we're requesting, it would do exactly that, sir. It could do one of 2 things added to it, actually 3 things. Right now, it's just signage is the approved method of denoting a fire lane. What I request for this ordinance is you could either paint a 6-inch stripe on the pavement with no parking fire lane stenciled on it, or you could paint the curbs red and stencil fire lane no parking on it. But with this ordinance, that would be approved designation for a fire lane.
And they have the option to do one of those? That's up to them to what they want to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In the last sentence of the paragraph in the section that we're requesting changes in says that these are private streets over there in Cedar Springs, gated community, they're private streets. The owner can request that a fire lane be designated with approval of the fire chief, then it could be enforced. So they're requesting this. If this changes, that would be a proper marking, and we would support that, and it would be enforceable then.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Ed,
Don't have anything. Good.
Cynthia,
I don't have anything.
Alex?
Yes, thank you. I do have a question. And as a resident of Cedar Springs, I can tell you I did receive, the first few times they had meetings, I wasn't aware of them. However, they were posted on the internal board, and then we did receive mailings, and it is on the CIA, which is their homeowners management company website, and if you want to get that, you're certainly available to it. There may still be people there who are not aware of it, but that's probably because they weren't reading the information that was being sent to them. There are a number of vocal citizens who are very opposed to this, mostly those who live on the streets that are affected, and I sympathize with that concern. The questions that I have, really, one for our fire chief, and then maybe one for our, the president of the homeowner association as well, just for the record. But to, Chief, when you say enforceable, can you give some explanation of what that would mean to the citizens, should there be somebody that ends up blocking one of these newly designated fire lanes?
Enforceable, and it is addressed in Chapter 38 of the City Code, Fire Prevention Code. Normally, what we do on an enforcement, our first action is to try to get voluntary compliance. However, we do have authority to tow, which I can say that we've never done, and that is a very last resort. Or a citation could be issued. Normally, it's a written warning on the vehicle, but it could be, a citation could be issued and come before the court.
Okay. So as I suspect, it's not really heavy-handed tactics towards that, but really more of a educational and informational, and unless there's a repetitive problem that goes further. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Our bottom line intent is to have access in, and that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Understood. If I could ask Mrs. Harrison the question. In all the documentations that were provided, there seems to, there was a lot of research that was done by various different entities. There is reference in here multiple times of Phase 1.
Correct.
Is there some expectation that we will be seeing this again for Phase 2, 3, or otherwise?
If the PaveCon recommendation had a much broader scope than what we're actually going to do. What we're going to do is not directly in front of someone's home. It's going to be across the street along side fences, and then also with talking with the fire department on our major roads to get them to the cul-de-sacs. It would make more people safer by doing that rather than just doing little cul-de-sacs if we can get the trucks to them. Phase 2 was purely taking the information that PaveCon gave us, their recommendation, and we pulled out what we felt like we needed to do and put the rest of that in Phase 2. It is not the board's intention to go forward with Phase 2 unless there was some entity that forced us to.
Okay.
Legally or some nature like that. But we wanted to provide all of the information to the homeowners to kind of show them that we were trying to be conscious about their property and restricting their parking and, you know, things like that, and doing it in the most limited way that we could, but to make the most people in the neighborhood safe.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because it was, I know that
Yeah. No,
there
it's-
was a lot of discussion about multiple
100%
phases and
agreement.
other streets.
Right, 100% agreement with the board members of not moving forward with Phase 2. There's, at this time, unless there was some sort of major change or issue where they couldn't get where they needed to be for some reason.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
And who was it you said was giving you the information?
Well, PaveCon they measured our streets. We went by the current fire code and had our entire neighborhood measured. The reason this even came to the board in the first place is we had some people on a couple of our streets who were having difficulty even getting their own vehicles to their home because of parking on both sides of narrow streets. And it concerned them that someone couldn't get to their home if there was an emergency. And then we started kind of looking at the history of Cedar Springs and talking to the fire department to say, is this really an issue that we need to do something about? And then when we started getting more information and also consulting our legal representative for the neighborhood, he said, well, it's a known issue now. You know, you need to have your streets measured, need to see what the real problem is and what needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Are there any deed restrictions in the neighborhood about street parking?
They're very vague. It does say that you can park on the street, but it's more of a time limitation, like the car has to be moved. It can't be a derelict, you know, vehicle. But there's not anything that says how many cars one household can have. There's no restrictions like that. That would take a vote of the entire neighborhood because that would be changing the deed restrictions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bert, any follow-up to any of that?
No,
Paul?
no, sir.
Ed, any follow-up?
No, sir.
Cynthia?
No, I wanted to ask, I was looking at this. There are a few houses that do have this in front of their house, so they wouldn't be able to have parking.
It was the only ones that have it in front of their house
Can you step up to the mic?
There were already some fire lanes already in Cedar Springs, when they developed the last portion of Cedar Springs. Those we simply repainted. We didn't add any fire lanes directly in front of someone's home.
Okay,
Yeah, those were just redone,
okay,
which we were required to do because those were already in the code.
okay.
Thanks. Any other comments from you, Chief?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could, there is some verbiage that needs to be added in this proposal under Section 38-22, subsection 3C. It says notice posting of signs. Now that we're adding this other type of designation, that posting of signs and/or other approved markings needs to be added up there.
And/or other markings?
Yes, sir. And/or other approved markings.
Oh, changing the title.
Other approved markings?
Yes, sir.
And Mayor, you had mentioned changing he, she to fire chief.
Yeah, in that, under item number 1 there, the last line there at the end, it says, if not required to do so by the fire chief, but he, she must approve such action, and I suggested to Rick we change he, she to fire chief, because the first of that sentence starts out about the owners, so it's a little confusing. So that just means that it'll be, if not required by the fire chief must approve such action. That's just for clarity. So we're going to add in the under C, notices, posting of signs, and add according to the chief's recommendation and/or other approved markings. So those two minor changes to the ordinance will be included in this motion to approve the ordinance. And if there's no further discussion being required, again, the motion will include those two minor changes to the ordinance. So all in favor of approving this ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The ordinance with those two changes is approved. Okay, next up, we have item 16, which is a reconsideration of city council action dated April 13th, 2017, regarding a request for variance to the platted 10-foot rear yard setback line pursuant to ordinance number 560. So the way this will work is we'll have a motion and a second to consider the reconsideration. We'll have any discussion that's deemed appropriate, whether or not to reconsider this item, and then we'll take a vote on the reconsideration. And if that is approved, we'll go back to that item as if a vote had never been taken, continue the discussion, and then vote on it again. So we would need a motion and a second to consider reconsideration of essentially item 14 from the council meeting April 13th, 2017. So if I can have a motion to consider a reconsideration.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, we reconsider, it'd be item 14.
Have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Fredericks. So again, this discussion is on deciding whether or not to reconsider, and then there'll be a vote taken on the reconsideration brought forward by this item. So Bert, it's your item. You want to discuss why you're bringing it for reconsideration?
Okay, we're not going to vote on the reconsideration first, just discuss.
Well, you're going to discuss it.
Okay, all right.
Pros and cons
All
for reconsidering it, and then we'll have a vote for reconsideration.
When we did this at that council meeting, I didn't feel right about it because we had a lot of information, but I didn't feel like I had all the information I needed. So what I did is, Councilmember Fredericks and I went out to the site, and we went and looked exactly what was going on over there. And if you'll look at 9806, which is a completed home, it's already sold. There is actually on that home right there, it is just 3 foot 6 inches into the setback. And on top of that, it's next to a privacy fence with a concrete drainage going right down there. It's not going to affect any home or anybody else. Also, that 3-foot 6-inch encroachment is a covered patio that the house has. I felt like this was from stopping these people from moving into their house that they bought. They've been waiting, I believe it's been 6 months, 8 months, something like that, to get into it. I didn't feel like this was right. Okay, and then 9807, if you'll look at that, there's some pictures there that I took. And that encroachment is exactly 5 feet from a rock wall, and this rock wall goes down the main entrance to Brycewood. Once again, it's not going to affect another house. It's not going to affect another resident. To me, yep, they made a mistake. I understand that, but this house is already sold. These residents want to move in. They're going to be our citizens because this place is annexed. And to me, holding them back from just because of a 5-foot encroachment is not right. Also, while Councilmember Fredericks and I were there was a citizen there, and he talked to us, and he told, and hopefully Paul will back me up on this, he said, please just get this done. He's tired of this stuff just sitting there and not anything happening. After we made the decision, this house on 9807 they stopped construction completely. So they have shingles sitting out in the front yard. The house is just sitting there. No, it not going anywhere. And then it looks like we have another letter from another citizen saying is this the one from 9807? I didn't get a chance to read it all.
I think it was.
Yes, it is. These are the owners of that house. And they certainly, they say they understand our situation, but I think we need to make give these people a benefit of the doubt and let them move into their homes. That's all I have for now.
Okay, Paul?
One of the reasons I wish to bring this back up is I really wanted to have a dispassionate discussion on this, because I know during that city council meeting, passions were running a little bit high, so that was one of the reasons I wanted to bring this back up. Number two is when I'm on the Board of Adjustment and we're looking at variances, I typically will go out and try to look at it. I did not have an opportunity to do that prior to the vote, so I did go out. And if you look at some of the pictures, especially the 9806, which is this one, really where you have the post on the back porch, it's right past those posts. And really when you're standing there on the back porch, it's hard to see houses on either side because of the shape of the lot. So I thought it really wasn't going to affect anybody, especially with that big drainage ditch behind the house, and currently an empty field back there. Also, we met Fred, and we spoke with the neighbor, and typically when we send a variance request out for Board of Adjustment, we get feedback from the neighbors, or if we don't get feedback from the neighbors. In this case, we met him, and he didn't have any heartburn. He understood why the city was doing what it was doing. He was a civil engineer. He understood, but he was, again, frustrated that he had 2 empty houses sitting next to him vacant. So I am certainly in support of reconsidering this. The 9807, it does back up to the main road, and their backyard is a brick wall, so nobody will see this variance at all. There's, again, no effect to any neighbor, because, again, if you stand at the variance and look either direction, you cannot see a neighbor's house from that standpoint, really, when you look to the right or left, or nobody is significantly affected next door. And the neighbor we talked to, he's actually between these 2 properties, so he has interest in both properties on either side of him. So that's what I had. Thank you.
Ed?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I remember that discussion clearly. Again, it's a situation where developers asking for forgiveness rather than permission. The plea that for the homeowner, again, I feel for him, but at the same time, that frustration should be directed at this particular developer. He's the one who created the situation. Having said that, I would like to, grant this variance. It is minor, as you guys, you council members have pointed out, and I appreciate the work you've done to go and check this out and give us more information about it. So for me, I'm in favor of granting this particular variance, but I feel as if we are rewarding this developer once again for bad behavior. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Cynthia?
I would definitely like to reconsider it. We're voting for reconsideration. I would definitely like to reconsider it.
Alex?
I agree, we should reconsider it.
Okay, all that discussion, no more discussion on that, then we'll take a vote, and this vote will be to reconsider it. And what that does then is puts us right back into this item from April 13th, prior to when the vote was taken. So then we can go ahead then and have any discussion you want to beyond this, and then actually vote again. And a yes vote would be to approve the variance, a no vote would be to deny it then. So this vote, a yes vote, will be to reconsider this item. And so I would ask then, all in favor of reconsideration, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that motion carries. That takes us back to the discussion on item 14 of April 13th. Is there any further discussion beyond what you've already talked about?
And I would like to thank my fellow council members for taking time to go and check this out. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, then we'll call the question if there's no discussion requested. And again, a yes vote will be to
Are we
grant.
going based on the previous motion then, or do we need a new motion? I get a nod from the city secretary.
Actually, you don't need a motion because we're back at the discussion just prior to the vote. So the motion was made and seconded, so you can refer to your minutes as to, and we can tell you who made the motion and who made the second. But all of that's been done. All we're doing now is going back and redoing the vote. Yeah.
Mayor, just for clarification, there was a motion and a second, and there was a vote. So that was for that motion and the second. And now,
I can't hear you.
there was a motion and a second, and then you called for the
For
vote.
reconsideration.
Yes, so they have reconsidered. Clarification, should we not have a second motion to discuss and approve?
No. No, because we're going back in time to just prior to the vote. We're taking up discussion where it left off at that point in time. So we don't need to have a second motion. We're going back to that identical item.
So you'll vote on the item.
We're
motion
going in
twice?
and gonna recast the vote, yes. I can, do you have those minutes?
Yeah, so the motion
Who
was
made the motion?
The motion was made by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Buys, to discuss and act on the item as written.
Yeah, I've studied Robert's rules. We don't need to have a second motion.
So,
We're
I know.
going, we're
So you're
discussing.
going to that motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the motion was against it, wasn't it?
The motion was discuss and take action.
Oh.
That was the motion in the second. The vote was no, and it denied that motion,
Okay.
okay? So we're right back to where we're going to vote. That's the way reconsideration works.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the only people who can bring it back for reconsideration is people council members that voted against it, is that correct?
On the prevailing side, in this case, it was unanimous to deny it,
Yes, sir.
so you two
Okay.
could bring it back. Everything is fine.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead, now we're going to re-vote on this
discuss it?
item, number 14.
I had a question, if I could.
Go ahead.
I didn't think it was appropriate to bring it up on the idea of whether we should or should even reconsider it, but now that we've decided to reconsider it, I had a question. The question I have is, and Councilmember Fredericks identified that the emotions were pretty strong at that meeting. The emotions were strong because there was a report to the council by the city inspector who indicated that he had denied or told them that they were in violation prior to the point where they had started the construction, and that instruction had been Is there any evidence to the fact that this is not true? I've heard some very convincing, and I'm in favor of granting it, but my question still comes back to that, is we were told that the developer had put the forms up, and prior to pouring the slab, had been told that they were not in the right place. They went ahead and poured the slab and built the building anyway, which is what made the emotions of that council meeting so strong about denying the request for a variance. Has that changed? Was it all still the same? I mean,
We included inspection reports on both houses in your packet with
right.
some notes between the building inspector and us, and some comments by me. If you notice on 9806, there was no mention of the encroachment from the beginning of the house in October until March. That was the first time an encroachment was put on any inspection report. So the house was essentially complete before the building inspector brought the encroachment to the builder's attention.
okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yes,
Because
and that's in your
that was
packet.
the gist of what caused a unanimous decline in the past.
That's
That
correct.
I think I mean, I agree with the emotion and the homeowners and the neighbors and the minor detail of the encroachment, but I still think we need to clarify that part and identify that why we voted on it negatively was that we had incorrect information. That was why we denied the variance in the first place. And so I wanted to
Correct.
clarify that on the record, because that's my primary reason.
Yeah, and after that meeting, I asked Ernest to go ahead and pull all the inspection reports so that I could go through them to verify what the building inspector said. If you recall on 9807, he said that he disapproved every inspection. However, in your package, you'll see that 2 of the 4 inspections were in fact approved, 1 for water, 1 for sewer. And then there were 2 that were disapproved. One of those indicated the encroachment. But on 9806, I believe the first inspection for plumbing rough-in was October 16th of last year, and not until March did any mention show up on any inspection report of an encroachment. So the house was
No, I saw
essentially
that. I just wanted to make sure that it was
in the minutes or
denoted.
noted.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so again, then all that's required, if there's no further discussion, and we can make a note of that in the minutes, that we did review the building inspection reports also, and they were contrary to what they were presented on April 13th. So that being said, are there any other comments? Then we'll go to the vote. A yes vote here will essentially grant the variance on the encroachment of the rear yard setback for both of these houses, 9806 and 9807 Brycewood Cove, and allow those houses to be completed and occupied. So all in favor, say yes to the variance?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye? Sorry. I'm trying very hard to make sure we get it right here.
Yeah.
So, yes or aye. So we got 5 ayes. All opposed, say no. Okay. So that motion from October 13th is hereby granted that variance. And by golly, that brings us to the end of our agenda. So if there are no objections, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:53.